Welcome back. All right, so as I continue to look at teams that got eliminated in the first round, the Kings are here again. I got fully on that bandwagon. I really wanted to see the Kings do something in the playoffs this year because seeing them lose every single year to the same team, I mean, even as somebody who doesn't generally root for the Kings, I was like, come on, you gotta, but nope. So it's four straight playoff appearances for the Kings. That's the good news. The bad news being four straight years they've lost to the Edmonton Oilers. And looking at regular season point totals, they've been good. 99 points in 2021 2022, 104 points in 22 23, and then 99 points in 23 24 before recording 105 points this season. Very consistent. There's only a 6 point difference between those four seasons in terms of points. However, they run into Edmonton and they lose. And this year it looked like it might be different. They scored 6 goals in each game in the first two, and then the Oilers switched to Pickard. And even though the Kings were able to get goals, all of a sudden they weren't keeping them out of their net. So they scored 6 each in the first two, and then they lost the next 4. So what's happened with them against the Oilers, they lose in 7 and 22, 6 and 23. They lose in 5 last year, and they lose in 6 this year. So it's just been a mess. Now, looking at the players who've been here for the entire time, and I wanted to just take a look. Adrian Kempe, 24 games, 15 goals, 14 assists, 29 points in those 4 series. A minus 17. So, plus minus doesn't mean a lot. Sure, yep, but Kopitar, 24 games, 6 goals, 17 assists, 23 points, and a minus 15. And Kopitar is seen pretty universally as one of the best two-way forwards of his generation, and the Oilers are able to figure that out. And Danault has good numbers, though. 24 games, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points. He's been a plus 9, and he usually gets tough assignments. Trevor Moore, 24 games, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points, and plus 5. Mikey Anderson's had his struggles against the Oilers. Understandable, because you got McDavid and Draisaitl. 24 games, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points, and a minus 14. And then you get to the goaltenders. Goaltenders of record during these 4 series. Jonathan Quick, 3 and 4 in that first series, 902 save percentage, and those are the best numbers of their goaltenders. Korpisalo, 2 and 4 with an 892 save percentage. This year, Darcy Kemper, 2 and 4 with an 889 save percentage. Cam Talbot, 1 and 2 with an 861 save percentage, and Riddick 0 and 2 with an 872 save percentage. So the goaltending has been taken apart by an Oilers team that is just lethal against these LA Kings. And this year's playoffs no different. Kempe led the Kings in scoring with 4 goals and 6 assists, 10 points in 6 games, but still a minus 8. It's almost impressive that he can be a minus 8 when he has 10 points in 6 games. Kopitar, 6 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points, minus 6 in that series. Danault, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points, and a plus 2. So Danault had a half-decent series. Fiala, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Even plus minus, Kuzmenko, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, minus 5. And Byfield, 3 goals and an assist for 4 points and a minus 7. And I'm sure the Byfield discussion will still be out there because we know Kopitar, at age 37 currently, at some point in time, relatively soon, we may see him retire. And Byfield is seen as being a likely replacement for him as that, top guy, the linchpin that's holding the offense together. And there's still some debate about, what exactly we're getting with Byfield and how good is he going to be? How many points is he going to produce? So looking at the regular season and keeping this relatively brief, Kempe, 81 games, 35 goals, 38 assists, 75 points, or 73 points. Very good. Not quite a point per game, of course, but the LA Kings play a stingy defensive style of game. And this has been talked about, the style of hockey that Jim Hiller coaches. It does sound like brand new GM Ken Holland is leaning towards keeping him, but it's still early in the offseason, and you never know. There might be a coach that becomes available. There might be a coach out there that he's interested in, and he's not going to tip his hand at this point in time, I wouldn't think. Kopitar, 81 games, 21 goals, 46 assists, 67 points. Kopitar, very good forward. Not as productive as he was 10 years ago, but how many of us are? Fiala, 81 games, 35 goals, 25 assists, 60 points. I think Fiala was so dangerous down the stretch. and that continued into the playoffs. But at some point, the Oilers had a way of overcoming that by just scoring a ton of goals. Byfield, 81 games, 23 goals, 31 assists, 54 points. I think eventually the Kings are going to want to see Byfield producing at least a point per game, if not more, and using his size out there more than he does as well. Foegele, 82 games, 24 goals, 22 assists, 46 points. And I really felt like if they were going to knock off the Oilers, maybe Foegele would end up with a big goal and help him out there. But in the end, it doesn't happen. Darcy Kemper had a very good regular season, 31, 11, and 7, 921 save percentage. And I do have to mention their home record was 31, 6, and 4. The Kings were fantastic at home. Last year, they were fantastic on the road. So next season, can they be fantastic at both? We shall see. But there is some debate about whether or not this Kings team is trending in one direction or the other. Are they treading water? So they have some cap space on July the 1st. $23,268,333. There we go. Almost skipped a column in my brain there. But that's how much they have on July the 1st. Now, there are some free agents they're going to have to either re-sign or they're going to have to replace one way or the other, right? But they don't have a second-round draft pick in 2025. This isn't a team that's been stockpiling draft picks. So they do have their own first-round pick, which is good. And then when you look at their salary structure, honestly, there's some pretty good salaries here. Fiala at $7.875 million until 2029. It's a long contract, but Fiala, one of their most dangerous forwards. I think that's fine. Kopitar, a $7 million cap hit for one more year. I don't think he retires. I don't think next year's his last year. I think he can still keep going. I think he can play into his 40s. It's one thing with players who are really good defensively and offensively is they're usually capable of playing a little bit later, because when the offense is gone, you can still play defense. Teams are still interested. The name that always comes to mind for me is Brian Trottier. Byfield, $6.25 million cap hit till 2029. So, again, you look at his overall numbers, 23 goals, 54 points. Not awful at $6 million, considering what the salary cap's doing and all that, but they do want more, I think. Dano, $5.5 million till 2027. I think they're happy with Dano at this point. I would be. Kempe, $5.5 million cap hit. That is one of the biggest bargains in the league for one more year. Next summer, he's unrestricted, and he's going to get paid. Adrian Kempe is going to get himself some serious money. Drew Doughty has 2 more years left on his contract. The cap hit $11 million for Doughty. Kemper, $5.25 million for 2 more seasons. And I think Doughty's fine. I mean, $11 million's high, but as long as he's healthy, I think he's still a pretty good top 2 defenseman in the National Hockey League. Now, pending unrestricted free agents or restricted free agents, the only restricted free agent of note is Laferriere. Laferriere had a really strong start to the season. The offense dropped off as the season went along. I think Laferriere probably gets a maybe 3 or 4 year deal. Maybe they see something there and they give him that long-term extension. We'll see. And then the unrestricted free agents, Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko played well for the Kings. I would be kind of surprised if the Kings don't try to bring him back. But with a new GM, you never know. He may not see in Kuzmenko a lot for that future. So he may end up going to free agent market. But with the way Kuzmenko played for the Kings, both in the regular season after the trade from Philly, and then in the playoffs as well, I would think teams will be calling him. Jeannot is going to get a drop in terms of how much his cap hit's going to be, but there will always be teams interested in a bottom 6 forward who can hit, who can drop the gloves, and so Jeannot will draw some interest. Trevor Lewis, I did research before I started this video up to make sure he's not retiring, because it feels like he's on the verge of it, in that I think he's 38 now. He hit his 1,000 game mark. There was a lot of ceremony around that, of course, and it would make some sense if he did retire. I didn't see anything either about an extension, but new GM, we'll see. Gavrikov. Gavrikov is one that I think the Kings would like to hold on to, but that's where it gets difficult, because with a new GM, you never know. Rob Blake ran things one way. You've got to think Ken Holland's going to run things another. I think Gavrikov's a good defenseman if he leaves LA. There won't be any shortage of teams looking to sign him. And then David Riddick. Riddick can be a good backup, not a backup that plays too many games. And I think Eric Portillo has been sitting and waiting his turn for a bit. Portillo very likely to be the backup goaltender, I would think, for the Kings next year. But we'll see what they end up doing there. The LA Kings are in this interesting spot where they're a good team. This is a good team. But then the playoffs roll around, they got Edmonton, and they're out. And we don't know over the last 4 years if they'd played other teams, if they'd played Winnipeg, if they'd played Minnesota, if they'd played teams that aren't the Edmonton Oilers, would they have beaten them? And would we have a different storyline right now? Would Rob Blake be out of a job? Would Ken Holland be the GM? A lot of things that could be different. But we're left with what we have, and the Kings have not been able to get over the hump against the Oilers. They had their best opportunity, I think, this year, even though the 2022 series went to 7 games. I think being up 2-0 at home and asserting yourself at home, it's important. But then they lost Game 5, and there you go, they're out. So looking at the numbers this year and comparing regular season to playoffs, during the regular season, 3.04 goals scored per game. That was 14th. 4 goals per game in the playoffs, which right now is first because the goal scoring's dropped off a lot as the series have gone along. Then in the regular season as well, 2.48 goals against per game, second overall in the National Hockey League. And in the playoffs, 4.5 goals against per game. So those Oilers lit them up. They figured it out. They figured something out with the Kings, and once they had that figured out, the Kings were not able to turn things around. Now the power play during the regular season, 17.9%, 27th. During the playoffs, almost unstoppable, 40%. And they were above 50% at points during that series as well. The penalty kill, 81.4% during the regular season, which was 8th. During the playoffs, not as good, 61.5%. So both the Kings and the Oilers were lethal on the power play, which is part of the reason so many goals were scored in that series. Now, against the Oilers this year in the playoffs, when they had a lead after the first, they were 2-1. When they had a lead after the second, they were 2-2. So the comebacks were an issue, and if the game was tied going to the third, well, the Oilers are going to win it. Now, in the first period, the Kings outscored the Oilers 7-5 in that series. In the second period, the Kings outscored the Oilers 11-7. Then the third period rolls around, and the Kings are outscored by the Oilers by a score of 14-6. And then in the overtime, the Oilers got the only overtime winner in the series. So the Kings couldn't close out the games, and I think familiarity might be part of it. Maybe with the Kings, as soon as Game 4 went against them, maybe those negative voices started up. Who knows? But the Kings not able to get over the hump against the Oilers, and that ultimately costs Rob Blake his job as the general manager. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which direction would you take this team? Because I do get the feeling that they intend to stay in contention and try to build on what they have. But is what they have currently that they're trying to build around, is it going to get them back to the promised land? This team has not won the Stanley Cup now in 11 years. So it is tough to get back there, absolutely. And at some point in time, guys like Kopitar, Doughty, and others are going to pack it up and retire, because that's how time works. And will the Kings have what they need in order to stay in that contending spot? So they might be a team to watch at the draft. They might be a team to watch in free agency with that over $23 million in cap space. And although they've got some players to replace and a LaFerriere they have to extend, they could very well be, I would say, in the market for maybe one big name. Maybe Ken Holland decides to go with one big name. Could he go with somebody that he knows from Edmonton? Could he go with somebody that he knows from way back in Detroit, for instance? Unlikely, but you just never know. Let me know your thoughts, though, in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. I tried to root for the Kings this year, and maybe that was part of the problem too. But I really did want to see a different storyline with this. But it is 4 straight years. It's the same story. And now it's up to a new GM to figure out the riddle. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. I will talk to you again soon.